And especially if you're like me and you're kind of discovering yourself as you're doing this whole business journey. It's like this journey of building a business. It's a journey of self-discovery, and it's also a journey of self-confidence.
Hey, my feel good friend, and welcome to the Feel Good Social podcast. I'm your host, Kinsey, and today's guest is just so freaking wonderful. Jessica is, a knitter and also a knit pattern designer, and also somewhat of like an awesome biz coach / marketer, or at least about to be, right? Hasn't quite claimed it yet, but super amazing. So I know you're going to love this conversation. We talk actually, oh my gosh, we talk about creativity, which is not something that I've really talked about a lot on the show yet. And we nerd out about how some of us don't feel creative, but why we should. We're all creative beings, right? And so Jess shares her story about coming to terms with her own creativity from engineer to now awesome knitter person. And we also talk about a lot of awesome actionable tips when it comes to marketing your business, and then especially Instagram reels and all those things, and Jess's take on that. She is wonderful. I cannot wait to share this conversation with you. I know you're going to love it. But before we dive in, I just want to remind you that if you enjoy this conversation, this chat with Jess, definitely share this episode to your Instagram stories and make sure that you tag both of us. I'm at Feel Good Social. She is at Snickerdoodle Knits. Definitely look in the show notes if you want the details for how to spell those. But make sure you tag us, because we would love to reshare and we would love to spread the love right back to you, my friend. Okay, without further ado, let's dive into this amazing conversation with this amazing badass woman. Hey friend, and welcome to the Feel Good Social podcast. I'm your host, Kinsey, and I'm here to help you market your business in a genuine way that works without wasting your precious time. On this show, we chat about social media strategy and mindset tips with a focus on, you guessed it, feeling good. So sit back, relax, and enjoy some genuine conversation for the good of your biz. Real quick, have I invited you to join the Feel Good Social Club yet? Oh man, my friend, I would love for you to check out our new monthly membership for down-to-earth entrepreneurs who are ready to create content with ease, actually show up and strategically market your business online every month, and also make friends with rad down-to-earth entrepreneurs who are just like you, who get it, who are in the posting trenches with you, and who are ever ready to give you a friendly air high five or kick in the accountability booty whenever you need it. The Feel Good Social Club is where it is at. Check it out, feelgoodsocial.com/club. In the club, we have a content library full of Canva templates and tutorials and resources to help you make content creation as easy as possible. We also have monthly content planning workshops where we all come together and talk about the upcoming month's strategy for our content. And we also have community forums where you can get together, ask questions of other club members, brainstorm ideas, ask for feedback. So definitely check it out, feelgoodsocial.com/club. Our Feel Good members are seriously some of the most amazing people that I have ever met. And I would love for you to join us, feelgoodsocial.com/club. Check it out. Join today. We would love to see you in there, my friend. All right, let's dive back into today's episode. Hi, Jessica. I'm so excited to bring you on the Feel Good Social podcast, lady. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks so much, Kinsey. I'm so excited to chat with you and excited to be here.
Yes. Well, I did already introduce you a little bit in the intro, but I'd love to hear from you. Who are you? What do you do? Who do you serve? All the things.
Yes, so I'm Jessica Brist. I'm knitting pattern designer and mentor behind Snickerdoodle Knits. I design knitting patterns that are engaging to knit, easy to wear, and that tell the stories of living. And then I also, within the last year, have started helping fellow crochet and knit pattern designers. So I mentor one-on-one, and then I have a group called the Design Circle specifically for helping them in all parts of running a knitting pattern design business.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And I love what you do so much. Firstly, you're like one of the sweetest humans ever. And like your like posts on Instagram with all your sweaters, you're like love shawl and all those things are like always so cute. But also you are so like smart when it comes to the marketing stuff. I'm so glad that you're doing like the coaching and helping other knitters do the same thing. And also it's so fun to have conversations with you because I think similar to your Feel Good Social Clubber and similar to the like all the gardeners in the Feel Good Social Club and stuff, you do something that like intrigues me so much, but I'm not very good at it, right? But it's still so fun to like have conversations with all these different people and all these different industries and like talk about marketing and how do we market our business and all stuff. So, okay, long story short, cannot wait to geek out with you about all that, lady. But before we get into that, I always like to ask people about how they got started in entrepreneurship and how they ended up doing what they're doing and all those things. So what is your entrepreneurship story, lady? Tell us all the details.
Well, I could probably talk for a couple hours about it. I actually recently did an IG live because folks wanted to know more about my design story. But long story short, I never wanted to own my own business and I never thought I was creative. I went into architectural engineering for my degree and I got my bachelor's degree in architectural engineering because I've always been good at math, but enjoyed creativity, but never wanted to have to rely on that for income. Long story short, that was too much just math and not enough creativity. Went into interior design, was in the middle of nowhere in Wyoming, and that fell through and started an Etsy shop selling knitting products. And 6 months later, started designing. So,
oh my gosh. That is so cool. I did not know that about you personally. And I love that so much. Well, I went to Purdue University. So I was like surrounded by engineers all day, every day. And I appreciate math, but it was kind of the same thing. I kind of went the opposite direction because I actually really loved math in high school. But I kind of thought like, oh, but I want to pursue something that's actually like more creative for me, more storytelling, more writing focused, right? But then I like did the internship at the student newspaper and burnt myself out on journalism before I even like had any inkling of like getting into the actual journalism field. And so, yeah. And so then I kind of had to figure my own stuff out too. But I love that you shared that too, because, you know, I hear that so often, so like, especially from like the math people, the science people, like we all think that well, not all of us, you know, but a lot of us think that we're not necessarily creative if we're mathematically, you know, oriented or like scientifically oriented as a person and stuff, but you are, you know? And so I think it's good to like share that and like learn how to embrace that. Did you have some kind of like come to Jesus moment with the creativity at all? Or were you just like, I want to do this and you just kind of follow the passion, or what that?
No, it was definitely an instant. So a couple months into the Etsy shop, I'm like, okay, I can't do this forever. I'm making chunky knits. I'm doing the same thing over and over again. I'm getting bored, just like I was bored with engineering. This is pointless. Like, what's the purpose? But also it was really hard on my hands, knitting with the chunky yarn and big needles all the time. So I'm like, okay, I basically have if I want to keep in the fiber industry, 2 routes that I see right now. I could be a yarn dyer or I could be a designer. Yarn dyer, I don't have the money or the space to do. Designing, I don't have the creativity for. So I just let it be. Like, okay, whatever happens, we'll see. I had a few months left until my husband finished his master's degree, and then we were going to be moving from the tiny town, and there'd be, you know, so I figured I'd probably either figure out what I was doing with this business or else go back into interior design and architecture. And let's see, I started the Etsy shop October 1st. It was sometime in February that I suddenly had design ideas. I was inspired by a scarf that somebody was wearing, and I suddenly had 5 design ideas for a collection. And then it just kind of blew up from there, and I kept having more and more ideas filling up my design journal.
Oh my God.
So it was definitely like an instant that totally changed it. But I have also found it interesting, like we were talking about how feeling like we're not creative, thinking back to what caused that. I think I've never been artistic in the sense of being able to like draw with pen and paper or like painting and stuff. I have a hard time getting my hand to do what I want it to do.
Oh my God.
But I haven't done like a lot of art classes or anything like that. And I just recently kind of have thought about, I think a lot of it stems from an assignment that I had in 5th grade art where we were to paint this close up of an animal's face. And I got a B on the project, which, me, I'm perfectionist. I am an A student.
What? You guys, my face is like judging this 5th grade teacher right now.
And so that's kind of like it. Like looking back, it's like that was like the traumatic event where it's like, all right, I can't do art. I'm not creative. I've always been into hobbies and crafts. But I think that was the pivotal point in my past that convinced me that I couldn't be artistic.
Wow. Okay. We are going to, I'm like waving my hands over, trying not to like move too far away from the microphone, but seriously. Okay. Firstly, I think Brene Brown talked about this or something in one of her books where it was like a lot of people have like art wounds, right? Or like creativity wounds from their past where it's like an adult told them like, or like kind of limited them, you know what I mean? Or like told them like, you're not good at this, you're good at this, or like, or even limited them like you, where it's like, it's even more subtle where it's like, you tried your hardest and you put your heart and soul into this. And like, as a 5th grader, that deserves an A, but like, where the heck is this B coming from? But like, exactly. Then you limit yourself when you're younger and you hold this like identity moving through life. And that's why so many people have trouble like feeling creative or feeling here's the thing about creativity. And let me know if you feel the same way. I relate creativity to just like open-mindedness and like, even like problem solving is creative, adventuring is creative. Like there's all these different like facets of creativity, but it's again, bringing it back to like societal norms and what we were taught in school and all that stuff is like, you're a creative person or you're not. Right. And usually that's related to like, am I going to get an A on my 5th grade animal art project?
Yes.
So silly.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And it's something, like, when you look at even if you just look at paintings, all of the different kinds of art there are out there, I'm not an art expert, but you can look at a huge variety of the kinds of art interpretations there are and how people just use a paintbrush and paints to create different kinds of art. And so if it's just one person portraying their opinion on you, doesn't mean actually that you're not good at it. It's completely their opinion and bias. And so it's interesting, art in general and creativity, if, like you mentioned, the open-mindedness, if we were able to just let it be free. I actually recently just wrote an email about this because I launched a program called 52 Weeks of Creativity, where fellow designer and we are releasing weekly design prompts that are it's actually open. It works for any kind of creative inspiration that you want because it's so open-ended. But the thing is, it's open-ended. So it allows you to completely go on your own journey. It's not like, hey, we want you to create a design that has this kind of texture and this shape and follows this mood board. Because I've realized those bounds don't work well for me. I want freedom to do what I want. And I'm very much inspired by my own experiences in my past. That's why I kind of use the tagline, I tell the stories of living through my designs. It's because I'm telling these stories that are so relatable. And those, I'm not inspired by, whatever design prompt somebody in a magazine submission has, because they're looking for something that's supposed to be cohesive. They want these designs to come together in a magazine to sell to their customers. It makes sense, but that's not the way that my creativity works. And I realized kind of just as I was writing the email, it's like my creativity needs freedom. It just wants to be open and allowed to do what it wants to do. Yeah. And I guess also, like we all operate in different ways. So for some people, having a very clear prompt is very helpful. But maybe for others of us, that isn't helpful. That restricts us and keeps us from creating instead.
Wow. Okay. Geeking out on this conversation. And I don't know if I've really actually had a conversation on the podcast like this one quite yet, which I'm loving. But for sure. Oh my gosh. Whenever you were talking, I was like, I'm totally the same. Like, I don't know too, if it's like the rebel personality in me or like, I have definitely, personality issues with feeling like I'm being shoved into a box or trying to be controlled. I definitely like thrive on freedom, right? And so I feel the same way. And I'm laughing because my mom, what popped into my head was my mom. And, she's a very supportive, creative person. Like, I love my mom. I brought her onto the podcast. People love her. It's fine. But we went and took this art class in Breckenridge when she went to visit me one time. And it was like literally very literal, like, let's create a mandala art class or something. A lady walked us through the steps and we were allowed to be creative and like put different feathers on it here and there and like but there were restrictions such as like, I think it was supposed to be balanced or something like that. And I'm just like, my mom's like creating this very like perfect mandala looking thing, like very creative still, but still it was like what the lady said, right? And I'm going away, I'm having so much fun, I'm like looking at my piece like, wow, this is great. And I like show it to my mom and she was like, that's great, kids. Like, that's not a mandala though. It's like, why are you hating on me right now? Like, this is what my creativity wanted me to create today. And so, this is what happened. But I love that so much, lady. And thank you so much too for bringing up the fact that like, I mean, isn't it the secret of life that we all need to get to know ourselves and understand what we each need individually? And that's the best way we're going to find harmony in life, right? Is like, okay, your creativity might not look like my creativity. My creativity on Wednesday might not look like my creativity on Saturday. Learn to listen to yourself and what you need and stuff. So I'm glad you brought that up, lady.
Yes. And, of course, we can talk about the whole discovering yourself as a business person as well. But I think there's also a whole creative journey that we can go on as creatives as well. Like where I was 10 years ago isn't the creative person I am today. I'm definitely the type A perfectionist, follow all of the rules. My fifth grade teacher called me a teacher pleaser. And it's true. Like I was always the kid who followed all of the instructions to a T and just did as I was told. And so that teacher actually realized that I had a lot more, I didn't think of it as creativity at the time. It was actually all about extended studies, the way you think, that did all the test stuff. But like she recognized that there was more to me than just following the rules. And I don't think I never actually accepted or embraced that until I was a business owner. Like I still was very much just follow to the T. So if you would have given me an open-ended prompt 10 years ago and said, hey, create a design, I would have been like, oh my goodness, I can't do this. This is impossible. Where if you would have said, okay, design a sweater that uses a chevron motif, I could have maybe at least drawn something with that, So I think we definitely have creative journeys, just like business journeys, where we develop as a creative and we kind of step more into who we are and what we enjoy and learn all of that.
Yeah. Oh, so beautiful, lady. And I'm laughing too, because like, I know I completely understand what you mean. And I've kind of honestly, I'm like looking at our journeys, right? And I think we're starting at two opposite ends of the spectrum and slowly meeting in the middle. Cause I've definitely always been that person where I'm like, whoa, wow. Like, oh, okay. This is a suggestion, although I was like a good kid in school and I followed the rules and all the different stuff. But like, for example, I've always been awful at cooking because I have a recipe, but I don't follow it. Right. And so I think I get that from my mom too, because she is, self-admittedly not a very good cook. And it's because the recipe clearly says, the X amount of whatever. And she's like,
I think I'm only going to put like this amount of this in and then try to put this other thing in instead. And then she gets sad when it turns out bad. And I'm the same way, right? And so I've slowly learned to start following directions when I need to, right? But also still like expand and be creative and think outside the box when it's also okay to do that in the way. And I think it's like about finding that balance, maybe. Do you feel that?
Yes. A whole conversation we probably shouldn't get into, but I find it really interesting you talking about your mom. I find it so interesting how much all of our surroundings affect us.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have been up until, starting my business journey, basically just like my mom, It's like, so the whole psychology and how that all works is interesting. But that's not what you're at.
Oh, lady, I feel you there. And like, for sure, and it's so funny too. And exactly, it stuck out to me when you said, I never dreamed of starting my own business, right? Like I never thought that was going to happen or anything like that. Right. And I'm not sure your parents' story or anything, but like, I don't know if they were entrepreneurs or not, but mine, I didn't even realize my parents were entrepreneurs and that was a weird thing. Really, because they were their entire life. Like both of my parents held multiple jobs. They owned multiple of their own businesses. They've been kind of like pivoting and transient their entire lives. And like, it wasn't until I interviewed my mom for the podcast that I was like, oh, you guys were entrepreneurs. And I guess like, I never really thought, I think I always kind of just thought that I was going to do my own thing, but like it was never like a huge dream of mine to like own my own business or anything like that. But I think it was just like a spirit and like an outlook on life that was like ingrained to me in that way. Were your parents entrepreneurs or not really?
No, but my grandparents, both sets of grandparents owned small businesses. And so what I saw was one side they had a small, it's drug and hardware is what the store is called, but it was the whole main store for the whole town of like 100 people in middle of nowhere, Montana. And my other grandparents had a carpet cleaning business. And so what I saw of owning a small business is working yourself to death and not having a lot to show for it and having to take care of all of these different parts. And it just felt overwhelming. So it wasn't even that I wasn't considering owning my own business. I didn't want to own my own business. I'm like, I'm going to let other people take care of all of those nasty details, and I'll just be focused in the part that I like. And of course, now I'm like, oh my goodness, I love all of these different parts. I'm so multi-passionate. I'm like, I love the marketing and I love the designing and I love the coaching and I love the website design and I love so many different parts. It's hard to, the photography, so many of my different passions that I had before that came together, and I'm still not able to focus on any of them well enough to be really good at, like the photography or the website design or anything like that. But like, even just when I started the Etsy business, I'm like, this is really cool. I'm able to bring in so many of my different passions. Because when I went to college, I'm like, I had thought about photography. I had thought about graphic design. And, like we said, I didn't want to have to rely on being creative or artistic. And so I went the engineering route. But it's like, oh, this is like a way that I can explore more of these different things that I've always enjoyed.
Well, and I was going to ask you too, and again, this might come back to me not knowing very much about knitting, even though I love everything you do. I can knit a scarf, and usually I end up like totally not counting any of the numbers because I get distracted by shiny objects. But so do you feel like you use your kind of mathematical brain when you're creating designs too?
Oh, absolutely. Designing in particular, not necessarily knitting, because when you're knitting from a pattern that's already been created, somebody else has done the math. But when you're designing, you have to do all the math to make sure the stitch counts fit into the size, and your sizing is actually going to be correct. And then when you create multiple sizes, you have to do the math for each size, and especially when you get more intricate designs and stuff in there. So yes, there's definitely still math in there.
I know. Doesn't it feel so great when you're like, wait, I can do this. And like, it involves all these different types of passions that I love and all that stuff. I love that so much. So let's go ahead and talk about your journey in entrepreneurship, because I think it's so interesting. Like, I love the fact that first, I love your journey getting into what you're doing now and all that stuff, but like, Yeah, there's been like adding a lot of things, and like you're so smart in so many different areas and so many different ways and stuff. Like, what has been one of the biggest struggles I think that you've like kind of has popped up for you with this journey of being an entrepreneur?
The biggest struggle is also the biggest reward. And like the thing that I love the most about this whole entrepreneur journey, it has been really discovering who I am. I always, fit into the mold of what everybody else expected to make everybody happy. And when I started, taking webinars and courses and different things like that, and it's like, oh, what do you enjoy? What are you passionate about? I'm like, I don't know. Like I'm good at math and I'm good at connecting with people as far as I'm a very empathetic and compassionate kind of person. I'm a good listener, which is something that I had no idea how to incorporate in my business until last year. So at the beginning of last year, I started a community for knitters. It's called the Snickerdoodle Knits Community. And I was offering courses, mini courses, and kind of one-on-one support and different things like that. And it's like, okay, this is going to be some amazing thing. It's going to be a way that I can start making money, hopefully as a designer, that's actually an income. Because spoiler alert, it's hard to make money as a designer when this is a whole nother conversation, but patterns aren't highly valued by our society. And, folks are getting upset having to pay $6 for a pattern that designer has spent hundreds of hours on. Anyway, so I had started this community and I was excited about the potential. I was excited about connecting with people, but I didn't realize until I had already started it and was into it a couple months that I wasn't that passionate about it. I like helping people and I like seeing people come to these points of clarity and excitement that they're actually achieving these things. But I'm not that excited about helping knitters, which I still feel a little bit of guilt around. And then the whole mini course thing, it was draining. It was exhausting and it was too much work, honestly. So a year ago this time, I was to the point where I'm like, all right, what am I doing with this whole business thing? This isn't supposed to feel this way. I'm supposed to be loving what I'm doing. Where do I find what I'm passionate about? Like I love designing, but I feel like there needs to be something more. And it wasn't until May that I started to get clarity on that. I'm like, okay, I love working with designers. I love talking about business strategies. I love talking about design strategies. I love talking about the ups and the downs, like not sugarcoating it, but also giving each other hope and encouragement and working together to lift each other up. And I had been looking for a community that really did all of this, where it was a real community where people actually chatted. Like I've been in communities before and it's like, okay, yeah, people can ask questions occasionally, but there's not a lot of connection. And a lot of times it's like, one person asks a question and then like the host of the community answers. It's not a whole lot of like collaboration and stuff. And I was looking for, okay, how do I apply all of these business and marketing strategies that I know really well to designing and specifically? Like there are little bits and pieces of our industry that my marketing coaches don't understand. like they don't know all of the contacts and the different people. And I think in our industry, it is really important to be making connections. And so I was on a coaching call with a mindset coach and she's like, why don't you create that? I'm like, this is what I'm looking for. I can't do this. But I sat with it and I'm like, okay, how can I make this happen? And so the first step was to invite guest speakers to come in, which I realized partway in, okay, I could be teaching a lot of these conversations, but actually that's not what the point of this group is. This group is about collaboration and connection. And the way that I host the guests is it's a lot of conversation. So we can get the quote unquote experts' opinion and advice, but then I can also, input my perspective. I can share what I have learned. And if it's somebody not familiar with the knitting industry, I can share how to apply it. So that's kind of the whole culmination of, I kind of just went into a whole description of what the design circle is, but that is my entrepreneurial journey. And it's like amazing. They say, I don't remember the actual saying, of course, but like when you're going through these tough times and like it was multiple months of just like, what in the world am I supposed to be doing? This isn't right. And then out of that came something that I'm so passionate about, and realizing like full circle, so much more parts of my life coming together to create this, because like I mentioned, like I've always been a good listener. I've always been passionate and interested in people's stories and connecting with people, and had no idea how to do that. I was even like, okay, should I be doing like volunteering in like schools and like trying to help students and different things like this to like fulfill that part of me where I want to help people and I want to connect with them and I want to be making a difference. And now it's like, this is all happening in the design circle. The members are loving it. I'm loving it. I'm like, this is a dream come true. I don't know how this happened, but I'm so glad I'm here.
Oh my God. Okay. I love that so much. Thank you so much for going into that full description, ladies. I was like hanging on to every word. And it's so fun to hear other people's journeys in this, like not only to get your perspective and hear your story, which is interesting, but also like, there are times through your story I was like, yep, felt that, been there. Like that's kind of how I feel about the Feel Good Social Club too. It's so funny. Okay. Do you ever have this feeling? This is how I feel a lot in my business throughout my journey with Feel Good Social. Cause I've had that pivot too. When you were like, oh yeah, I kind of started doing this. And I was like, this is kind of boring. Like, this isn't really what I want to be doing. Like having that realization, like knowing when you need to maybe pivot or try to figure something else out, like, not fully, throw in the towel or anything, but like also being like, okay, like, can I make this look a little different so it actually works for me better? Like, went through that with Feel Good Social too. And exactly, it feels so good when you create something. Like, that's how I feel with my Feel Good Social Clubbers a lot. They're like, we love this. Thank you. I'm like, thank God you love it, because I love it too. Like, this is wonderful, but I don't know. Sometimes throughout my journey, I've had those feelings where, well, firstly, I think the Feel Good Social Club was kind of an idea I had very early on, but I knew it wasn't quite ready, right? Or like I had the idea, but it was kind of abstract and I didn't know what I wanted it to look like. I've had lots of times where I'm like, I can feel something is there, but I just can't see it yet. It's not clear. Like I don't have the, and it wasn't like I just need to like go chase it and find clarity necessarily. It felt like more of I need to wait for this like idea to solidify, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yes. And it's interesting because even like from the point I started designing, I'm like, okay, I want to be a coach for designers to help them through all of this business stuff, because I have worked and listened to so many different marketing and business strategists, and there wasn't really anything for designers. Now there are just a couple. So I always kind of had this dream vision, but I felt like I had to prove that I could make, X number of figures as a designer before I could start teaching this stuff. And so it never was like in the near future possibility, but I love, and even like listening to you talk about it, I love how things can just organically change and grow without us really, like, we don't have to force anything. And that's a big thing of just like, learning who I am as a person is also listening to who I am. And there's so many of these different things. If we pay attention, it's like, okay, this doesn't feel right. What would feel right? And really understanding how to listen to that gut feelings has been like, I find it so amazing that there is all of this, like, we kind of do know what is right for us when we actually listen to it. But there's so much other stuff around us that it's easy to feel like we should, and I always do should in quotes.
She's air quoting, guys. Don't worry.
Yes. Should be doing this, or quote, need to be doing that, or so many things that we feel pressured to, whether it's our creative side or our business side, that we feel like we have to be fitting into these things to actually work as a business and to be doing the right thing versus the wrong thing. And I talk about this a lot in the design circle. I hate saying there's right and wrong ways to do things. I hate saying that we should or shouldn't do things. It's really about listening to who we are and what's authentic to us. Obviously, you have to understand what your business goals and all of that is. Like, if it's the money is really important to you, obviously you have to implement the strategies that will make you money. But how can you do it in a way that is right for you and authentic to you and actually works for you as a person, so that you love what you're doing and you're not just creating a business that you don't love? Because what's the point of that?
Lady, you're gonna make me cry over here. I'm like getting tears, because like, this is why we love each other, because you are like, everything you're saying is so aligned with like how I feel too about business and social media marketing and all this stuff. And this is the perfect segue into Instagram Reels, which we knew we wanted to talk about. You guys, Jess and I had like, I don't know, like 50 message, like voice memo conversation back and forth on Instagram in the DMs the other day about Instagram Reels, because exactly, like I've always like kind of promoted to people, you know, like especially the people who I'm serving, right? Those small business owners who are just trying to wear all the hats and do all the things in their business and all that different stuff. Like, when it comes to social media marketing, is social media the number one priority in your business? No. So how can we do it in a way that's effective, in a way that's not going to waste your precious time, and in a way that feels easy and enjoyable for you, and also is strategic and going to reach your target audience and all that stuff, right? And so when it comes to Instagram Reels, a lot of people, you know, I have lots of different people in our Feel Good Social Club community, and I've worked with people one-on-one and all that stuff, you know, ranging from they're downloading the Instagram app by the time we start working together, like that day, or, you know, they've been on Instagram for a while and they understand it. But like, especially for those people who are new to Instagram, they're like, how the heck do I do this? Like, I don't even know how to post a regular post. You know, what are hashtags? You know, like they don't know how to like edit together a reel. They don't know about like saving audio or trending audio, and talking about that stuff is like too overwhelming for them in a way, you know. Or Instagram Reels can be difficult for people too sometimes, who are scared to show up on video, which is a real thing, you know, and a fear that I have had, still slightly have, but with practice have overcome somewhat, you know. And so it's kind of hard sometimes with like Instagram Reels, because they do perform well, and Instagram's algorithm has been favoring them over the past year. Like, you know, is that something that we need to pursue? So lady, tell me how do you feel about Instagram Reels? Let's start there.
Oh goodness. This is, you know, I told Kinsey in our conversation, like we could have just made that conversation alone a whole podcast.
Yeah.
But I think there is so much potential to use Instagram Reels in a way that is authentic to us individually. There's so much opportunity for creativity. I think if we stop looking at what we feel like everybody else is doing, that's in air quotes again, I use a lot of air quotes, then if we stop trying to focus on what everybody else is doing and think about ways that we can use it creatively and artistically in ways that we enjoy and our ideal customers enjoy, I think there's so much opportunity there. Like, I don't love this is personal opinion. I don't love the reels where it's like, okay, somebody, like the audio is somebody saying something, and then the reel that is posted is inserting different words. Like, it's like supposed to be the same thing, but it's not the same thing. And I'm like having to listen to the music, but also then try to figure out what this person posting is saying. And it's like, I'm getting distracted and it's confusing and it just feels like a mess to me personally. But that doesn't mean I hate Reels. I think there's just so many different ways you can use it, as far as like you can take a video, if nature is your thing, I love seeing the videos where it's like just somebody like walking through nature or like a babbling brook or something. And that might be all it is. Or, you can put a quote with it, or you can tell a bit of your story with it. You can do voiceovers so that it's not your face, but it's something else of interest. With the knitting industry, of course, you can do a lot with your knitting the thing that you're knitting and showing your hands doing it instead of showing your face doing it. And we can use music, we can use text, we can use our own audio voice to connect with people, and we can use our face. Obviously, I think the biggest way that we can connect with our people to build the like, no, trust factor and to really get people to feel connected to us is with our face and our voice. But that doesn't mean that's where you have to start, or even where you have to end up if it never feels comfortable for you. But I think there is, with anything in business or creativity, we have to be willing to try and test things. I'm pretty sure if you were feeling leery about Instagram Reels, you're not going to fall in love with it the first 1, 2, or maybe even 3 Reels. You kind of have to flex that muscle and find what feels good for you. Like I still feel awkward and silly in a lot of Reels, but I love them now. Like it's so fun to like channel this part of me that is fun and silly that I didn't even really realize was a part of me. Like I've always been one to like kind of joke around in a kind of behind the scenes way with friends. Like I'm not like the jokester, but I'll insert little jokes to make people laugh. But I never really thought of myself as somebody who's funny or, that fun kind of, I've always thought of myself more as like this loving, empathetic, compassionate person who just wants to be a friend who gives you a big hug. But we're humans. There's so many different facets to who we are as people and as business owners and as creatives. And yes, so there are so many different things you can even realize about yourself, discover about yourself in playing with Reels.
Oh my gosh, lady. I love it so much because exactly. It's like, well, firstly, baby steps. Like it's okay to be like, to not really like know what you're doing and stuff like that. And that's the thing too. I think a lot of people, I see this a lot with the way people approach social media in general, or like marketing in general, business in general, right? Is like, it's all or nothing. You know what I mean? And like, and I always relate it to like New Year's resolutions or like starting a diet, right? And it's like, okay, well, I've just got to like start this diet. It's going to be only apples for the next month, something like that. And then they eat a donut on Wednesday and the diet's done. And it's like, that's a terrible example of like a diet. I don't know what the fad diets are anymore, but it's like, dude, no, how about you just like start small, like eliminate one thing from your thing. And just like, if you happen to one day eat, if you like eliminate sugar, or I don't know if that's a good example either, but like then like on Wednesday you eat a donut, you can totally go back to like, cutting back on sugar again the following day, And I always think it's the same with social media. It's like, yeah, we can start small with Reels too. We can start with baby steps with our Instagram content and slowly start to build confidence, like as we are creating these things and all that stuff. Like, have you found that to be true when it comes to creating Reels for yourself?
Yes. Obviously. I mean, like, I shouldn't say obviously. That's a terrible response. But
no, but that's how I feel too, lady. It's like, it is. It's just like the getting started that's hard. But go on.
Yes, I feel like that's everything, probably in life, but in business for sure. And especially if you're like me and you're kind of discovering yourself as you're doing this whole business journey. It's like this journey of building a business. It's a journey of self-discovery, and it's also a journey of self-confidence. And so as we're going through this journey and becoming more confident with who we are, more comfortable with who we are as a person and a human, and as a business owner and a marketer and all of these different roles that we play, I think we also become more confident in how we show up. And that will also help us have more confidence in Reels or even video, like if you do live video and things like that. And so the more that obviously we want to give ourselves baby steps, but also challenge ourselves and allow ourselves to grow and give ourselves this opportunity to try new things and explore new things. And we can grow in confidence as we're doing that. And as you grow more comfortable and confident, it'll be easier to show your face in these reels, to act silly, to, be, not the perfect professional person that maybe you think you need to be.
Oh my gosh, totally. And I feel the same way, right? It's like, well, okay, firstly, I mean, y'all probably heard me say this before, but it's like, we don't, and actually I just created a reel about it like yesterday or something where it's like, we don't need to like be professional slash like uptight, like slash it's boring. You know what I mean? It's like nondescript brands, like they aren't remembered, they aren't trusted, they aren't liked. And, that's not how you're really going to build a community of people who are going to support you. Like I always like to bring it back to that on social media is think about, me, I like to focus on the human side of things and then pick and choose the logistical side of things and the algorithm side of things that is going to support the human side, right? Because I do think they all really work together, essentially. But it's the human elements of your brand is what is really going to get your people to relate to you, like you, know you, trust you, all those things. And that's not only going to compel them to want to buy from you instead of all the other Joe Schmo brands out there that are doing similar things to you, but also like that helps them to like connect with other people within your community and other customers who also buy from you and also recommend you to their friends who are probably very similar to them. Like this is how it works on social media. So the more you can add personality to your brand, the better. And reels are a great way to do that. Instagram is a great way to do that. I mean, like I always like to bring it back to, ultimately is Instagram like crazy? Like, is it a giant deal for you to put out a post on Instagram that, maybe, a few people see and stuff. And like, if it's dorky and it doesn't seem to like be working well, you can always delete it. Like, I don't care, delete Instagram posts if you're not comfortable afterwards. Just like try things out, try to take, I think the pressure off of yourself is what I'm always trying to tell people.
Yeah. So knowing that it doesn't have to be permanent is great, but also before you hit the delete, I would encourage you to check in with yourself and ask, why is it feeling uncomfortable? Is it just uncomfortable because it's something new and different and you're afraid of being seen as something besides professional? Or is it uncomfortable because it doesn't actually sit right with you? Because obviously growing pains are uncomfortable. But that's a completely different uncomfortable than sitting poorly with you. Like there are things value-wise or things that just don't feel right. That's a different kind of uncomfortable. So also weighing out, because sometimes putting out the first reels where you're acting silly, it's going to feel uncomfortable. You're going to be like, oh, maybe I should delete that. Maybe I just like made a fool of myself. Hopefully you'll kind of get some responses like I did where people are like, oh my goodness, I loved this so much. This was so relatable, to encourage you. But yeah, that's what I would add into there about.
Totally. And also too, if you do delete it, like still you can use it as a learning experience, right? And forgive yourself, right? Like I've definitely like, deleted some posts because I was like feeling awkward or something in the moment and like anxiety was taking over and stuff. But then thinking back, I'm like, probably shouldn't have deleted that. That's fine. And also too, I love what you said. Here's the thing, you guys, like it is so easy to worry about the haters. It's so easy to focus on the negative comments or like make stories up in your head about people being negative, about you being too silly or annoying or anything like that, right? But people don't like often. Let me tell you a story real quick. I don't know if you saw this reel I created the other day. It was like, just like spur of the moment reels, which is like some of my best work has been done in the spur of the moment things, but also some of my most anxiety inducing work has been done. And it was literally like my friend Melanie sent me this reel from one of her friends. And this lady like did this hilarious video using like a dumb rap track or something. It's like yeet yeet skirt or something like that, and like just super loud, super obnoxious like audio, right? And I like it was stuck in my head all day. So of course I had to recreate it, and I dressed up as like this dude like rapper, my version of like a dude rapper, and was like yeah, like dancing and stuff. And I think I labeled the reel like next time you're scared to post on social media, like just come back to this. I remember you're not the dorkiest one out there or whatever. And I posted it, and I immediately felt like vulnerability anxiety in a way, right? Where it's like, oh my gosh, because also too, and it comes back to personal issues that you might want to be aware of and not bring into your business, right? Like I'm kind of a loud person when I get excited and stuff, you know, and so, you know, that kind of awkwardness was like creating a story in my head of, oh my gosh, people are going to think this is so annoying. They're going to think like whatever. And I like posted it because do you know like Lil Jon, like the rapper or whatever, you know what I mean? And he's like, yeah. Like that's his like phrase. I was like, should I or should I not post this reel? And then I had like Little John's voice in my head because I had the rap song in my head. I was like, yeah. It's like, okay, I'm doing it, Lil Jon, pose. And then I had that vulnerability anxiety. But immediately my podcast editor, actually Emily, messaged me being like, I literally laughed out loud when you posted this. Like, this is hilarious, you know? And I was talking on the phone to my mom, and I was like, it just like makes me feel so good. Like if I can make one person's day, that's great. And my mom was like, Kins, like, you know, for every person who reaches out to you to say like, this made my day, there's like 15 other people who like it made their day, but like they didn't say anything. Cause like, it's not our natural tendency to like communicate, especially when it comes to social media, right? So like there's all the behind the scenes stuff on Instagram that you just like don't see, don't hear, you know. And did I wake up the next morning and have like 6 less followers I did the day before? Yeah. Was that because of the reel? I don't know. But like I'm holding on to like the comments I got and the messages I got. And then also what my mom said, you know, I bring my mom up in the podcast a lot, if you can't tell, about, you know, like there's people who appreciate you behind the scenes who just aren't expressing it. And you need to make up those stories in your head instead of instead of focusing on the negative stories that we're making up. You know what I mean?
Yes, I love that so much. And, you know, that's something that I really hold on to a lot. It's like so encouraging. And if, you know, you're just starting out and you're really small, it might take a while to get those, but they will come. Also, the other thing I wanted to kind of mention is when we look at other people and what they're doing, I found it really helpful to think about what I enjoy, like what makes me feel connected to a person. And then you realize it's not the perfect professional. I keep saying professional. I don't know what the best word to use is, but anyway, like these images of perfection that we have for ourselves, that's not what we most connect to with other people and brands. It's when we see the human side, we get to know their personality. And for me, one part of it was I noticed somebody, and I don't even know her that well, but every once in a while it'll pop up that she was live because she goes live regularly and she just chats. And so every once in a while I just hop in and listen to her chat. I, you know, definitely wasn't the kind of person commenting. I usually then went on to something else, but I loved, it was like, I've suddenly, even though I don't even see that many of her posts and stuff, I suddenly felt connected to her and understood who she was as a person and just appreciated her as a brand. And I realized I really value that. And so that's why I started this year doing a weekly Instagram live where I'm just chatting. I'll tell you maybe about my week or whatever, but I try to really connect and ask how you're doing and what you're working on and have a conversation where it's more just like sitting in the living room on the couch, knitting next to each other, having a conversation. And so it's the same way, obviously, with reels. Pay attention to what you're enjoying, what kind of content resonates with you, what makes you feel connected with somebody. And if you're trying to attract people that are like you, if you do something similar, don't copy, don't do exactly the same thing, but do something similar in a way that's authentic to you. That's also going to resonate with your audience.
Yes. Oh my gosh. This lady has like all the freaking like marketing mic drop moments. I love chatting with you. And we were joking before we started recording that we could probably chat all day. So I'll probably have to bring Jess back at some point. But thank you so much for coming on the show, Jess. Can you please tell everyone where they can connect with you and find out more about you? Because I know they'll want to do that.
Yes, thanks so much, Kenzie. This was so much fun. And I know we could probably talk every day, all day. But you can find me at Snickerdoodle Knits, like the cookie Snickerdoodle Knits. On Instagram, www.snickerdoodleknits.com is my website. And all of the information for the design circle and my knitting patterns and everything is all on the website.
Awesome. And we will link them in the show notes, guys. So check them out. But thank you so much, lady. I can't wait to bring you back on in the future.
Yes, I'm so excited. Thanks so much.
How wonderful was Jess, you guys? I loved her so much. I love her. I currently love her. And I loved our conversation so much. You know me. I love bringing on guests who are just super inspiring and real and awesome. And I hope that you love this conversation as much as I did. So if you did, don't forget, share it to your Instagram stories and make sure that you tag both Jess and me. I'm at Feel Good Social. She is at Snickerdoodle Knits. And we would love to see it. We would love to reshare it. We would love to spread some love right back to you, my friend. Okay, I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will catch you next time I catch you. Do you know what your brand vibe is on Instagram? I have a new fun quiz that's just for you, my friend. I, of all people, know how hard it is to figure out how the heck you're supposed to translate your brand to the gram. And with this quick 7-question quiz, we will help you hone in on your brand's personality, voice, and visuals so that you can show up consistently and create content that looks beautiful and feels on brand for you. This quiz is so awesome. It's been a long time coming, and I know that you're going to have a lot of fun with it. Plus, the results will help you show up in the best way for you. If you'd like to check out our new brand vibe quiz, just head to feelgoodsocial.com/quiz. Pretty easy. Head to feelgoodsocial.com/quiz to find out what your brand's vibe is on social media and start showing up there for your brand. Thanks so much for listening, my friend. For show notes and a whole lot of other awesome freebies, visit feelgoodsocial.com. Simply go to feelgoodsocial.com for all the goods.